You cancel plans and feel relief instead of guilt. You spend an entire weekend alone and feel recharged instead of lonely. You walk into a party and within 30 minutes your brain is screaming at you to leave. People ask you, "Are you okay?" Because you are quiet and you want to say, "I was perfectly okay until you asked me that." You have been called shy. You have been called antisocial. You have been told you need to put yourself out there more. And your entire life, you have carried this quiet, secret suspicion that something might be wrong with you because you simply prefer being alone. Today, I need you to hear something clearly. There is nothing wrong with you. Your brain is not broken. You are not depressed, you are not damaged, and you are not missing out. You are neurologically wired to thrive in solitude. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why. Let us start with the science because this is not just a personality quirk. This is biology. In 2013, researchers studied brain activity in people who identified as introverts versus extroverts. They found something remarkable. Introverted brains showed significantly more activity in the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for deep thinking, planning, self-reflection, and internal processing. Extroverted brains, on the other hand, showed more activity in the areas associated with external sensory reward. Sounds, sights, social stimulation, dopamine hits from novelty. What this means is profound. An extrovert's brain is literally wired to seek stimulation from the outside world. It needs noise, people, action, events. That is how it recharges. But your brain is wired to seek stimulation from the inside. It gets its energy from thinking, imagining, processing, creating, and reflecting. External stimulation does not recharge you. It drains you. So when you leave a social gathering feeling like your battery is at 0%, that is not a metaphor. That is your prefrontal cortex telling you it has been forced to process more external input than it was designed to handle at once. You are not antisocial. You are overstimulated. And solitude is not your escape. It is your charger. Now here is where it gets even more interesting. Your brain has something called the default mode network. This is a system of brain regions that activates when you are not focused on the external world. When you daydream, when you reflect on your life, when you think about the future, when you process emotions, when you replay memories, when you have sudden creative insights, that is your default mode network working. And research shows that people who prefer solitude have a significantly more active default mode network than average. Your brain does not shut down when you are alone. It lights up. It becomes more creative, more reflective, more innovative. Some of the most important breakthroughs in human history came from people who spent enormous amounts of time alone. Isaac Newton developed calculus during solitary confinement in his countryside home during the plague. Nikola Tesla conceived his greatest inventions during long, solitary walks. Emily Dickinson wrote nearly 1,800 poems while barely leaving her house. These were not broken people hiding from the world. These were powerful minds that required silence to function at their highest level. And your brain works the same way. But society does not understand this. Society is built for extroverts, open offices, team-building exercises, networking events, group projects. The message everywhere is the same. Being social equals being healthy, and being alone equals being broken. From a very young age, You were told that having many friends is good, wanting to be alone is suspicious, and preferring silence is weird. If you sat alone at lunch in school, adults worried. If you stayed home instead of going to a party, friends questioned you. If you said, "I just want to be by myself tonight," people assumed you were sad. And slowly, invisibly, you started to believe them. Maybe there is something wrong with me. Maybe I should force myself to be more social. Maybe I am missing out on something everyone else understands. But here is the truth that nobody told you. There is a massive difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is the painful feeling of wanting connection but not having it. Solitude is the peaceful choice of being alone because it nourishes you. They look identical from the outside, but they feel completely opposite on the inside. A lonely person sits in an empty room and aches. A solitude-seeking person sits in an empty room and breathes. You are not lonely. You are home. Let me describe something and tell me if it sounds familiar. You come home after a long day of being around people. You close the door behind you, and in that exact moment, you feel your entire body exhale. Your shoulders drop, your jaw unclenches. The noise in your head slowly fades, and for the first time in hours, you feel like yourself again. You do not turn on the television. You do not call anyone. You just exist in your own space, in your own silence, in your own rhythm. Maybe you make a cup of tea. Maybe you sit by the window. Maybe you do absolutely nothing and it feels like everything. That feeling is not emptiness. That feeling is your nervous system finally returning to its natural state. You spent the whole day translating yourself into a language the world could understand, and now you finally get to speak your own language again. Solitude is not where you hide from life. Solitude is where you return to yourself. And there is something else that people who prefer solitude understand better than anyone. The difference between being alone and being at peace. Most people fear being alone because they do not enjoy their own company. When the noise stops, when the distractions disappear, they are forced to sit with their own thoughts, and that terrifies them. But you are different. You have built a relationship with yourself. You know how to sit in silence without needing to fill it. You know how to think deeply without needing someone to validate every thought. You know how to enjoy a meal, a walk, a sunset, a book, a cup of coffee, completely alone, and feel absolutely full. That is not a weakness. That is an incredibly rare emotional skill. Most people spend their entire lives running from silence. You run toward it. And that takes a kind of inner strength that the loud world will never fully appreciate, but will always quietly envy. Now I want to address something important because many people who prefer solitude carry a hidden guilt. You feel guilty for canceling plans. You feel guilty for not wanting to go out. You feel guilty for choosing an evening alone over a friend's invitation. You feel guilty because society has taught you that choosing yourself over others is selfish. But it is not selfish. It is self-preservation. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot be a good friend, a good partner, a good coworker, a good human, if your nervous system is constantly running on fumes because you never allow yourself the silence you need. The most generous thing you can do for the people you love is to protect your peace so that when you do show up, you show up fully. Not drained, not resentful, not performing, actually present. Your solitude does not make you a bad friend. Your solitude is what makes you a real one. Here is what I want you to take from this video. Your need for solitude is not a phase. It is not something you need to fix or overcome or apologize for. It is the way your brain is wired, and it is a gift. You think deeper than most people. You notice things others miss. You process the world with a richness and complexity that requires time and space and silence. That is not a flaw. That is a superpower. So the next time someone looks at you with concern and asks, "Why are you always alone?" you do not owe them an explanation. But if you want to give one, try this. Because my mind does its best work in silence. And I actually like who I am when nobody is watching. If this video felt like someone finally understood you, leave a comment and tell me what your perfect solo evening looks like. Subscribe so you never miss a video that reminds you there is nothing wrong with being exactly who you are. I will see you in the next one.